You're live.
Oh, okay. It keeps breaking up. Sorry, guys. So good evening and welcome to Real World News TV. My name is Shara Ann Tappan, and joining me this evening is my illustrious producer, Tony Breedlove. I figured I'd introduce her first. And my co-host, Reggie Kearney, the editor-in-chief of the Urban Sentinel. As Trump nears the end of his term-ish, we're in the second year in 2020, the world is waiting with bated breath to see who will try to unseat him and who will succeed. And it's obvious that we literally cannot afford another 4 years of this narcissistic, un-American debacle that is Trump. And given the travesty that was the Democrats' lackluster effort in 2016, it's no surprise that there are a number of Democratic contenders who stepped up to the stage in an effort to the Democratic Party. That and the really weird thing that the Republican Party seems to inexplicably, for some reason, be willing to put all their eggs in one basket with Trump to get him to win another 4. Really understand. It begs the question, who will be assertive enough, who will be strong enough, who will be masterful enough in order to unseat Trump and dismantle the Trump machine that's been in place for the last few years. Another question that I think needs to be addressed is that given Trump's adamant assertion that Russia did not have an impact on the 2016 election by flooding social media with false information and fake news, we have to ask ourselves, are we as Americans ready to do our own research and learn the facts associated with all of the contenders, or are we willing to be led by the nose again by foreign powers? I will say this, though, all I do know for a fact is that, and Tony was talking about this a little bit during the promo, is that all of the contenders, whether they're Democratic or Republican, better be prepared to gird their loin. If we've learned nothing else over the last 2 years, it's that Trump do not fight fair, they fight dirty. And any garbage in these people's closets is going to come to the forefront, and they're going to need to have the masterful skill that Obama had to not get distracted by all of these, dog whistles, and stay on track and stay on message. What do you think, Reggie?
Well, right now it's just still a big mess right now, I'll be honest with you. You got Trump, who probably will get the nomination again for the Republicans. Then you got Schultz, who's thrown his head in with very little substance. And then you got the Democratic, you got tons of Democratic candidates coming out there. Everyone has a game plan, and I think a lot of people in the beginning probably gonna get turned off, not gonna show a lot of interest, and the primaries will whittle the field down, but yeah, they're gonna have to be on point if they're gonna deal with Trump, because Trump's gonna come hard. You can already see he's coming at Schultz. At the end of the day, Schultz came at Kamala and came at Elizabeth Warren. So the whole system, it's becoming a mess right now. We haven't even really got started yet. And so that's where I'm finding my concerns lie. Because people aren't going to do the research. Okay, a lot of people are not going to do the research. They're just going to go vote.
Of course not.
But we have to vote for the candidate we think is the best candidate. But it's just that. I think what's going to happen in the Democratic Party is being forced to go to the far left. It's leaving the Democrats behind. I think that's where the split is going to come, especially if Bernie gets in and Biden doesn't. I see the message is going to be far left.
What are you doing,
why don't you respond to that? I have to plug in my phone because the audio on my computer, I can hardly hear you. So I'll be right back. I have to get my other.
Oh my God! Seriously.
So what do you think, Tony? How you think things are going to shape?
You know what? I have to agree with you that I think that, of course, the research is going to have to be done when we talk about these folks that have put their bid in to become the next president of the United States. I had mentioned during the promo that as soon as I posted something about Kamala Harris, there was this, firestorm of people who, they were saying, oh, no, I'm not going to vote for her. I wouldn't vote for her, and calling her out of her name. And, it was going there. It was going there. And that's something that, like Chair said, we were talking a little bit before the show. But I think that you are right. We are going to have to do our research. But I think it would be unfair to judge a potential candidate or candidate before having the right information. But we also have to consider the fact that, we already know that through social media, we're getting things that might be embellished on either the media side, or it could be what we were told that, Russia plays a big part in this, as to steer the votes in a certain direction. We're getting bombarded already with, who we should like or dislike. And instead of us being the Americans or the citizens that we claim to be and do the research, we're immediately throwing people under the bus, like Ms. Kamala Harris. And I think it's unfair. I think it's unfair to give her a fair shake, is what she deserves. Because as Sharon and I were talking about earlier, is that she was doing a job as a prosecutor. We don't know the circumstances behind some of the things that she, had made decisions on. So it's unfair to throw her under the bus when you say that, oh, well, she's making it so that Black folks have to stay in jail longer, or Black folks are doing this and Black folks can't have. Try sitting in that seat. Try sitting in that seat and then going by what is set as law. And then you might have some sort of understanding as to maybe what she had gone through.
Yeah, but But I think the problem comes in that when you're looking at doing reform in the justice system, when you look at some of the laws that are on the books in California, it's really hard to gather and get that reform that you want in the judicial system that sentences people fairly. Okay, when you had that 3 strikes and it's out, then you might get 3 strikes and it's out for jaywalking. Okay, but it's a law that's on the book. That's a little easy.
But that law came along before Kamala Harris,
right? But as her job, with her job, she has to enforce the law. Okay, don't get me wrong.
Exactly.
But what's going to happen? The younger people who are fighting for justice reform aren't going to buy it. Okay, I think the worst position you can have in running for president is have been a prosecutor. Okay, I don't think that.
Someone else told me that this morning. Someone else said that to me this morning.
Yeah, because it was her job. Okay, unfortunately, she has incarcerated a number of young Black men in the Oakland area that didn't do what they were supposed to do. Okay, but the laws on the books that have to be enforced when it comes to that 3 strikes and you're out, that's where a lot of people have an issue with.
But it wasn't that she had placed that law on the book.
Right.
Yeah, but you know what? They here's the thing though. If we look at what she's done since she's been in the Senate, she's pretty much voted along the Democratic line. She's voted against any of the immigration reform legislation proposed by the Trump administration that supported 24 wall. She voted against the criminalization of abortions. She voted against an amendment to repeal Obama's legislation requiring individuals to get to register for health insurance and for businesses that have health insurance to offer to their employees. She voted against Kavanaugh. There's no doubt about that. We all saw it. I think we need to look at when Tony and I were speaking before the show, I said for a Black woman who had political aspirations, taking a social stance while she was a prosecutor was not necessarily the best place to start. But since she's been in the Senate, where she's had power to directly impact legislation, I think that she's proven herself to be socially minded, civic minded, loudly so. And that to be fair to her, as Tony says, we need to look at both and see what she does, what she's done since she's been in the Senate.
But but you're still going to go back and look at what she did in California. Now, if
well,
you
we don't have you don't have a choice but to go
Right.
back. I mean, because that's a part of the
Yeah.
research process
Yeah.
of the candidate.
If you look at the her past support for legislation in California, she supported most of those tougher laws. Okay, that's her job. She's a prosecutor. You know, what's she going to like her as a prosecutor saying, well, I don't support this type of law to make our streets safer, okay? I mean, you know, it's a catch-22 for it. But like I said earlier, being a prosecutor is probably not the best formal position to have in running for president.
Now, let me ask you guys this question. Do you think
Well, there have been a lot of
former
prosecutors.
Well, yeah, there has. But let me ask you this, because see,
it's not necessarily
right?
But you know what? Kamala Harris, as interesting as I find her, is not the only candidate. Is not the only Democratic candidate, and I think that there are a lot of other people that deserve our eye and attention as well.
Are you hearing
Julian
me?
Castro seems interesting. The senator from Hawaii seems interesting, and lastly, of course, Kirsten Gillibrand, who seems to have a very diverse portfolio of the types of issues that she supports. So I think it's a little bit too early in the game to make a decision. We need to see how they comport themselves, but I do think that this is going to be, you know, the academic and professional credentials behind some of these Democratic nominees or candidates that are on board this year seem to be that they will make for a very interesting debate if they make it to the stage during the primaries.
Yeah, well, everybody wants to be president. They don't have too much substance. That's how I'm looking at it now. Because I mean, with the Democratic Party, I don't think you can go too far to the left. You know, and I think that's going to hurt the party because of the simple fact, you know, you have moderate Democrats out there, you have conservative Democrats out there, and you can't move the party so far to the left that the party gets split down the middle. You know, because you're definitely going to lose votes, and you know, and then Trump will definitely get back in office. I mean,
that's what I'm afraid of.
You know,
that is the part that I'm afraid of.
But what has driven this, with all this progressiveness, has been the Bernie segment of the party, who insists on pushing the party as far left as you can. It's just like your homegirl from New York. I mean, she's left of the left, okay? And that's where they're pushing the party towards. But I'm old school, okay? I mean, you got to be fiscal. You got to be fiscal minded. You can't give away the world and expect this country to survive, okay? So
I agree.
Where do I go with my vote, okay? You know, and that's the problem you're going to have with a lot of old heads who are, you know, moderate Democrats.
Right. So let me ask you guys this question. I was actually trying to get to the post that I put up regarding Kamala Harris. And of course, you know, it's taken me forever because I can't do two things at once. It's like walking into a bubblegum.
It talks about the very thing that we've been talking about, her career as a prosecutor and the stance that she took, the hard stance, which almost seemed very, very right. And they compare her to another prosecutor who came on board, and as soon as he came on board, he cleaned house, terminated a number of people, instituted some criminal reform, things that Kamala didn't do. Could she? Should she? Don't know. Need to know more about the circumstances of.
Who was that attorney that came in? What city was he in? St. Louis. The St. Louis state's attorney, prosecutor. He's the one that came in and he just cleaned house. Yeah. The veterans and everything. And what his was based on, whether it's right or wrong, was based on the Ferguson case and how that was handled. It also was based on judicial reform in the system. He has a very lenient view of prosecuting African-American males, okay? He feels like some of the laws are too harsh and you have to try to apply the law to each case. And If it can't, if it needs to be weakened, then it needs to be weakened to give the person less time. Okay. So he cleaned out veterans and everything. Cause that's the platform he ran on. Okay.
Yeah.
It's just like, look, Trump ran on build a wall. This guy in St. Louis ran on the fact that I'm gonna clean house.
What did she run on? Do we know?
Who's that?
Camilla.
Camilla? I don't know. I'll have to research that. But see, when you look at the St. Louis attorney, prosecutor, he's part of the younger generation. I mean, I think he's a 30-something, okay? So that's where their thinking is now. Okay, you look at Meek Mill and what he's doing as far as justice reform. I mean, that's where it all is now, I mean, so do you take the country in a direction where you weaken the laws, or do you try to apply it evenly to all individuals that come in the system?
A little bit of both.
But it's moving more to being more lenient, instead of getting so much time for a murder, whether it's justified or not. You might look at it. Okay, you might look at a 20-year-old and say this guy might have opportunity to be successful in society. Do we give him 45 years for a murder, or do we give him 15 years so he can get into society at 35 and be productive?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's where a lot of the thinking is. And I think, it's going to move. The country is going to be split on justice reform.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's going to be something. It is going to be something. I'm just hoping that people will do their homework, because I was just reading some of the posts on, or some of the responses to the post that I had placed a couple of days ago. Tony Encenitas. I went to school with this guy.
And you still can't say his name.
I cannot. But he said, what you should know is that Democrats on the Senate Finance Committee pressed Mr. Mnuchin on his use of offshore tax havens, his initial failure to disclose almost $100 million in assets, and charges that a company that he ran was overly aggressive in foreclosing on homes. But guess what? It was Kamala who, as California's Attorney General, let him off the hook. Mm-hmm. And she's been rewarded by his loss. Yeah,
There are things that give you pause.
Yeah. Oh boy. So your homeboy, Derek.
Yeah, I'm reading his. Let me read this one, okay? And Derek makes a good point there. I hadn't thought about this, okay? Derek says, I think this election is going to come down to whether or not Trump is a GOP candidate, which in most likelihood he will be, because I don't see anyone coming out challenging him. Now, someone might come out later on and might really challenge him, okay? He goes on to say the GOP is crazy enough to give him another shot if he is not impeached by them. Yeah, that's a good thought. I feel Biden would be stronger choice versus Harris if the field is wide open. I honestly like both of them and wish they would form a ticket thereafter. The problem with Harris winning really has little to do with her record or policies, but more to deal with older age white men simply not going for taking orders from a black woman. My only issue with Harris, I don't see a lot of extensive foreign policy in her background.
Well, she wouldn't have an extensive foreign policy background because she's been a California senator and a prosecutor.
Well, neither did Obama.
And he didn't.
Neither did Obama. And he did a fine job.
But they surrounded themselves with people that were knowledgeable of foreign policy.
Exactly. And that's what a cabinet is for.
Hello.
Yeah, but he makes a good point. The old age white middle class white woman or male is going to have a problem with a black woman being in charge.
Well,
they have a problem with a white woman being in charge, okay?
But how different is that with a black man being in charge? They still had a problem with Obama.
Of course they did.
Whether it was a man or a woman, he was a black person.
Right, but he was able. But he ran the table on the votes. They had no choice but to accept him. I mean, you had people really, really. The first time around, they got out and voted. I mean, seriously. I did a lot of canvassing, and some of those people that you ran into, they were dead. They were hard up to go vote. I mean, I went to a house that had an elderly couple. They were in their 80s, hadn't voted in eons. Well, I don't think they even have ever voted for a presidential candidate.
Right.
They were going to the polls. So he was able to galvanize people during that first election. Okay, so we've been galvanized, okay? All right, we've been there. He was able to galvanize the second time around. How, just like, what can she do to galvanize the community this time around? Just like Hillary didn't galvanize the community. She didn't have nothing.
She thought she had it in the bag, and that was, she lacked hubris. I mean,
Yeah.
she had hubris. I forget what your phrase is, but she thought she had it in the bag. She completely botched it. It's 100% her fault. She didn't get ahead of the game in terms of providing a proactive answer to the positions that she had in the 80s, and she let Trump steal the narrative. And that's what he's been doing for the last 3 years. So if these folks don't go do some spring cleaning in their closets right now and become masters of their fate and their own story, to guide the narrative and how we understand and perceive their history, then it's going to be done for them. Because I guarantee you, his PR machine is already working to do this. We see it with Kamala Harris, for right or wrong, whether we agree with some of the things that she did or not. There is already a political machine in place to fight against her. And they're going to do the same thing with these other viable Democratic candidates as well. And we have to be extremely mindful of that. So whenever I hear people speaking in isms this early in the game, whether it's anti-Camilla, anti-Tulsi, anti-Elizabeth Warren, I ask them, what do you know about their senatorial or representative voting track record? What research have you done? What opinion is yours as opposed to been spoon-fed to you?
Right.
Because that's the key this election. Because we're going to sit back and let the same thing happen that happened in 2016.
What do you do when you have a candidate who's a mayor out of West Virginia running for president? What do you do? He has no track record whatsoever other than running a city, and it's a small city. How do you evaluate somebody like that?
Well, it's hard to evaluate someone like that when they don't have a track record. So you can almost ascertain that this person would not even get to the area of an official nomination.
Except Obama proved that is still possible. If they are articulate enough, intelligent enough, not manipulated by the media. We haven't heard
from him, though.
No, but I mean, when he was running, the first time we heard from him, the first time we heard boo from him on the national stage was when he gave that phenomenal speech at the Democratic Convention in 2014.
Okay, I remember.
And that's when we all got goosebumps. Now, when we saw that he was running for election 2 years later, I know that I thought, oh, geez, this is way too soon. He's still green. But he did it because of his charisma, his intelligence, how he mastered the media. It is possible. I don't care if you've got 20 years of work experience. I mean, that might just say that you've bought into the system too much, that you're going to, I mean, that was my concern with Hillary, that she was just going to be another old white man, but in a skirt, because she would feel the need to show them that she can be just like them, make the tough decisions just like they would. But we knew that Obama could be independent of that. And I have faith that we could see that magic again, whether it's a black candidate, a female candidate, a candidate from Hawaii. I believe we can. But the thing is to control the media. And that's what he did. Of course, he didn't have to run against an asshole like Trump. Right. But that's what he did. And Trump has got so much dirt on him. I don't understand how existing president who's under so many investigations can even be allowed to run again. It's unfathomable to me.
Well,
he hasn't been found guilty yet. So
Mueller better hurry up. That's what he needs to do. He needs to step it up and hurry up, because we can't afford that. And you know what's going to happen? Ooh, this would be beautiful. If he releases his report, they find that he's guilty as sin. He can't run as the nominee for the Republican Party, and they wind up scrambling at the very last minute to find viable candidates.
Because who's going to leak the report? Because we're never going to see the report. So who's going to leak it?
May some brave soul.
Yeah. Okay.
Some brave soul.
Oh, I
Okay,
wish I were there. I would leak it.
A quiet,
yeah,
a quiet moment for the brave soul, the unknown
but we're
soldier.
never going to see the report, so we don't know what's in the report.
We don't know, and we
You know?
won't know.
Yeah, the only person can leak it be Mueller himself if he decides to leak it. So they've gone high up on the poll right now. And they got Stone, and Stone already said, pardon the expression. He's not going to testify. He's going to invoke the Fifth Amendment. His Fifth
Wait a
Amendment
minute,
right.
what did I miss?
And that just screams guilty to me. If you do
I
that,
missed it. What did you say? I'm sorry.
Stone said, pardon the interruption. He's not going to testify against Donald Trump. So he is the key to unraveling all of this stuff. Okay,
he is the key. He is the key.
Yeah.
And that's the part that bothers me about all of this, is that these, entitled white men sit and they take these seats and they take these positions, and they've got people's lives in their hands. They've got what was that?
that was my phone.
They've got our lives in their hands. They've got this country, in their hands. And they would rather keep all of us at bay and keep us in danger than to snitch on each other. When they know that their asses could go to jail, they don't give a shit.
That's how they roll.
But you know what? And Sydney just said, let me put it up. She says, Derek be writing them long posts. I can't be putting his stuff up. So Sydney says Stone will testify or spend the rest of his life in jail. And that's, I have to agree, because at some point, Stone is going to feel the realization that he could possibly be Bubba's bitch.
Oh.
He'll
go to federal prison. They don't do that there.
They still got Bubba's in federal.
They have their caviar and live life.
Pardon the interruption, okay? On January of 2021, on the day of inauguration, right before 12 o'clock, even if he gets 20 years, he will be pardoned, okay?
Yeah, because Trump tweeted. He tweeted that, this is somebody that's going to stand up for President Trump, speaking himself in the third person.
He will be found guilty. He will go to prison. But on January 2021, right before inauguration, right before noon, he will be pardoned. That's going to happen. Even
provided that Trump is still in office.
This is a man who can put Trump out of office, okay?
Provided that Trump is still in office. Well,
my money is on he's going to be in there. Because, like I said, it's too much crookedness going on in that area, okay?
Right. So, wait, Derek says y'all need to get him on the show. I'll speak brief and to the point. Oh. You know what, Derek? I tell you what. Derek, do you have a camera? Send me a yes or no.
Oh, boy.
I'm going to figure out a way.
Oh, sicky.
Derek in here.
Send Derek a link to come onto the show.
That's what I was going to do. Let me see if I can. Hang on a second, you guys. Keep talking. I'm working in the background.
So that I mean, it's just so many ifs right now here in DC area. When it comes to what's going to happen with the Mueller investigation. That's really going to have an effect on the presidential race. Okay, the outcome of it. Okay, because if if they do impeach Trump, you got an even field out there for somebody to run as a Republican and for the Democrats to run. Okay, but it's probably going to be at least 20 people running for the Democratic nomination.
You think only 20?
Yeah, I think it kept itself around 20.
Well, look, I mean, what do we have? 17 Republican candidates in 2016. So, but you know what they need to do? They need to stop with the foolery. We saw what happened in 2016. First, we saw Hillary botch it. They need a unified front. We need an excellent pair. Somebody for president, somebody for vice president. Figure it out. and let's just, run with it, because Bernie can't win. I'm sorry. And I'm not sure that I think he should, for a number of reasons. And it just distracts. We know it's unfortunate we have a two-party system, but not enough groundwork is put in between these 4-year periods to have a viable third-party option. We're just not there yet as a country. So we're stuck with the two-party option, which means you need to back somebody on the Democratic side, or Trump is going to win. End of story, full stop.
So guess who I got?
What if Schultz was able to pull it off?
Hang on, Derek. Hang on.
Oh, sucky.
Oh, shoot. Here we go. Here goes politics, y'all.
What's up?
Welcome to the show, Derek.
How y'all doing?
Good.
Hey, Frank, what's up?
I wish I had known. I told my people to chime in.
It's not
I
too
got to
late.
find my phone. Maybe I can tell them to chime in. You got a half hour left?
We got another half hour. Go for it.
All right, I'll let y'all talk while I set it up. I can't multitask right now and look at the phone too much.
That's usually my problem.
Tell me something. What do you guys think about any of these other candidates, these potential Democratic candidates like Julian Castro, Elizabeth Warren, Tulsi Gabbard in Hawaii, of course, Kirsten Gillibrand? What do you think of them? Have you looked at their voting record? Have you looked at what they supported?
I have not, and I think I said it earlier in a post that I am going to really feverishly do my research.
Yeah.
Because the only one that I could see, if it was not Kamala, that I would, vote for would be Biden. Those would be a mile. And the only
Biden, yeah, but he's not running though, is he?
We don't know yet. He keeps alluding to it, but it hasn't been confirmed. And I don't know anything, or I should say I know not too much about, what's his name? Beto O'Rourke. He had even, played and toyed with the idea that he would throw in his hat.
Yeah.
So, but I don't know much about him either.
I don't see his hat in the ring yet.
Yeah, the only one that I could see that I could even take a look at would be Elizabeth Warren, and that's because from an economic standpoint.
But what I like about Kristen, though, is that obviously she supports changes to the criminal justice system. She's against Kavanaugh. She supports a path to citizenship while still supporting some money towards border security. Mm-hmm. She is against denying funds to sanctuary states. She's against criminalizing abortion. She supports working families and the notion for making sure that there's affordable health care for families. Mm-hmm. She supports the troops. She's against cuts to Social Security and Medicaid because there is an attack on our elderly right now. Mm-hmm. Our elderly right now are treated like disposable population, and it's really disgusting. She supports improving the lives of our service members to ensure that they get mental health care and child care for their families. And she supports resources being used to protect us against cyber attacks, which Trump doesn't seem to support. Mm-hmm. So, and she's also about female empowerment, which is certainly a big thing between 2017 and now. Right. So she's really well-rounded, and she's been a part of a number of committees. So, I like that about her. Now, it's easy to like something about any of these candidates, but it's also easy to find something about them you don't. The problem I think we're going to have in this election is getting caught up in some ism, some one thing that prevents us from voting for somebody. Trump's big platform was the wall and nationalism. And he won because of the white supremacist movement in this country. And that is their single hot button issue, which is why they don't give a damn about whatever else he does in this country. But if we get stuck in that, if we turn down a viable candidate because of one policy that they have, we're going to lose. And Trump is going to win.
Exactly. I tend to agree with that. Mr. Derek.
Yes.
What you got to say, sir?
Well, I'm sorry. I was sharing the group, sharing everything.
Multitask.
Okay.
It ain't gonna be working.
Well, when we look, like I said earlier, when we look at the 2020 scramble, if Trump and the GOP select him as a candidate, the Democrats, we have such a wide open field, and I don't know if they're going to come together and say, hey, who's in the best position to beat Trump?
Exactly.
And I think all of them are good candidates. Everyone has unique quality to them. Like I said, I mentioned Harris. I like Harris, but I'm gonna be perfectly blunt. I'm saying when you look at the demographics and how people vote, you have older white men, you have older white women. Me, I'm coming from the South. I'm originally from the South, and so is she gonna be able to take that? Maybe Georgia, but I think it's gonna be difficult to get Mississippi, Alabama, Arkansas, Florida may be split. But there's a lot of time, so anything can happen. And I think for me, and I'm a debate person, so I think really the debates are really going to be crucial because that's something that, to be perfectly honest with you, Trump did horribly in,
and yet
but because we didn't come out and we didn't vote, and then you also look at the Bernie effect. You had a lot of Bernie supporters that said, you know what, we'll let Trump win instead of letting Hillary win. Well, guess what? You gave the office to Trump by simply doing that.
Exactly.
So they have to, the priorities at the end of the day, you have to say, okay, do you want Trump in office or do you want someone else? So in their mind, they either didn't vote, or maybe they voted for Trump. I really don't know. But when you look at the popular vote, Hillary did win the popular vote.
Yeah.
So you said something that I think is that was greatly on point, and I think it was you said that the Democrats will have to basically rally around someone that they feel that could beat Trump.
That's exactly what they need to do. A come to Jesus moment.
But that's not going to happen.
But see, that's where I was going, because I would think, and I would hope that someone else would think that has that position, that they would have learned a lesson by what we have experienced over these last couple of years, that they would get it. But do you think that they get it?
No, they don't.
Not the ones who run.
What we've gone through, they don't get it.
The Democratic Party needs a candidate that can unite everyone, can unite the progressives and the moderates, okay? You can't have a one-sided candidate. They can't grasp and get everyone in. Like I said earlier, where do the old school Democrats go who are moderates and not progressives, who don't want to give away the whole bank? Okay, the party has got to come together and respect everybody's views. What has happened, just like Derek said, the party was Bernie sized, okay? And so everybody wants to be very progressive, okay? They want to go left of the left, to be very progressive. And if the Bernie folks don't get again what they want, they're not going to vote again.
Yeah, and I think the other thing to look at is when we look at campaigning, we can have 20 candidates, but if everyone runs a hard civil policy issue campaign, at the end of the day, you say, okay, this is who everyone voted for. So let's get together and rally around this particular candidate. I think, and I'm just using local politics as an example. In our local politics, that wasn't the case. What you had was we were fighting amongst ourselves for our own personal agendas. And then once you win the primary, you're in the general, oh, I want you to vote for me now, although I talk about you like a dog. It doesn't work that way. I don't operate that way. I don't.
Right.
I just don't. I wasn't raised that way.
Integrity,
and when I look
the
at
whole way
national
through.
politics, when I look at national politics, I think it's to me it's a little bit easier to rally around a candidate who's run the primary if you ran a good race. Now you may not necessarily like all their policies, but I guarantee you there's one policy you agree on. There is at least one.
Well, they say that's how we got into this trouble with Trump, because there was that one policy that folks agreed on, and that was the, anti-immigrant supremacist border wall nonsense, because he had no other policy to stand on. Clear the swamp. He didn't clear the swamp. He brought it. He brought the
swamp monsters in.
Half the people that he brought in have been arrested, but these folks don't care. The people who voted for Trump predominantly. Not all of them, because some of them have turned coat because they've been affected by what's going on with insurance and employment and whatnot, the fracking in the middle of the country, poisoning our waters. But it's those people who identified with that one issue. So I think that we need to be careful about identifying a one issue. We need to be mindful of how they're voting on other issues as well. But I agree with you 100% that we need to, all right, fine. Instead of 17 or 20 candidates, make it 3 tops for the Democratic primaries to run against each other. And then of those 3, the top 2 wind up being, running for president and vice president, and call it a day, and back that full-heartedly. Because if they don't unite, like you all say, we all agree, Trump will win if he's not impeached.
I'm hoping for impeachment. Then I'm hoping for prosecution.
Oh my gosh. I'm hoping for full asset forfeiture.
And see, for me, and I talk about it, but to be perfectly honest with you, someone who has served in the military, to me, it's kind of dishonorable for anyone to get impeached. And I think it would put it, with Nixon, it took us a long time to really recover.
This is true.
Although it was before, I was born in 71, but it took us a long time on an international stage to really earn that credibility, that trustworthiness, because of what happened to Nixon. You look at Ford, didn't really successful. Then you look at Carter. Reagan was kind of the reemergence, but even with Reagan, there was issues.
Mm-hmm.
But, for a president to get impeached, that sends a clear message to the international world. That sends a clear message to the international world as well as our allies. What the hell are y'all doing?
Yeah, but you know what? I have to disagree with you on one little point there. And there's a difference, because Nixon had people, may have had people snowed to some degree that he was a decent guy.
We know Trump is not.
On the international scale thinks that Trump is a good guy. Even the fellow fascists that he's buddy with don't even like him. So I think that if this country got together, we found the evidence and we impeached him, it would send a message to other countries that we have our shit together, that we got our soul back, and that we are in control of our country.
And I have to agree with that, because I think that, and I respect what you're saying, Derek, but I think that without impeachment, this country would definitely be in a hellhole. It would, if we did, because without impeachment, we have nothing that says that we have to hold this man who sits in the highest seat in our land accountable.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't,
because already there was already this, this firestorm of fighting as to say whether or not a president could be impeached be prosecuted while he's in office. So if you don't have impeachment, if you don't have prosecution, which we don't even know if that's what they can do, if we don't have that, you can have the most treasonous individual sitting in that seat and he would run this country in a muck.
And we couldn't do a damn thing.
And you can't do anything about it.
Well, one of the major differences between Nixon and Trump is and if I can't remember all the history about Nixon, but from Nixon, he was in a situation where it was best for him to resign because he knew that there was going to be enough votes on the Senate and the House side. Where here, of course, the House has enough votes, but when you get to the Senate side, the only way I see the Republicans turning is only if, and this is only if, they would fail to lose their seat if they did not seek impeachment. Mm-hmm. And that I don't know. Between a year and because he can't be impeached number-wise in the Senate. Doesn't have enough votes.
So
look,
go ahead, Rich, I'm sorry.
Okay, so what if the Mueller report comes out and says that Mueller finds no collusion with Russia by Trump?
But collusion is not a crime.
Being devil's advocate. What if the report comes out and Trump's hands are clean?
Well, first of all, I have to agree with Derek. Collusion is not a crime. However, if he's, I'm sorry, I've got all these mics over here. So even if, say, for instance, he is not shown to be colluding, or they can't get him on collusion with Russia, you've got now the states who are sitting and waiting because of all the other things that he's done. So at some point, okay, we have to look at the fact that, yeah, he might not be impeached. he might not be impeached. But the point is that impeachment sits as a purpose of being able to charge someone if he has committed treasonous acts. That's what it's there for. And right now, what we are looking at is that Trump is creating treasonous acts. It's just a matter of how do we move in the direction of following the processes of impeachment.
Lying to the FBI, lying to
all
the
of
courts,
this,
lying to the American people, the emoluments clause, doing business in foreign countries while he's president. There's a laundry list of things.
But see, this is far worse than when Nixon was impeached. I remember the impeachment of Nixon. Nixon, he resigned to avoid prosecution. That's why he resigned. He was going to jail.
Yeah, he was. But look, so we really need to impeach, before we impeach Trump, we need to impeach the Republican senators, okay? Because they allowed Trump to come into office and not follow the rules.
They're complicit. They're complicit.
That's who needs to go first. The Republicans need to be impeached, okay?
Well, unfortunately, that's not going to happen. But
I know it's not.
I think what can be done is that you urge, is to urge voters, and even those people who may not vote, is think, look, talk to your respective congressman, your respective senator about these concerns. I said, because at the end of the day, in about a year, we're going to be voting. The campaign trail is started. So the key thing here is, who is the best, most viable candidate to beat Trump? Or will Trump beat himself? That's probably the best thing that can happen. Maybe he will beat himself. And then it'd be so much damage. It'd be so damaged to where if you don't have, we looked at the polls and we saw what the polls predicted. Didn't predict well last election. So the best thing we can do is, especially when we're looking at, and like I said, with these candidates, if my ideal dream team would be Biden and Harris. That's just me. That's just me.
I can see that.
I don't see it happening right now, but, and the only reason I say that is because of the demographics. You look at a president, and from the military standpoint, I'm embarrassed. You hold the POTUS at the highest level,
the highest esteem,
and when you have people that will sit here and, well, regardless of what he does, I'm still going to support him. I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
I'm saying it's like back in the day, you were considered a communist. MLK was a communist. But it's okay now to chill and have a bromance with Russia.
Right. To speak on one of the points you made earlier about trying to speak with your local elected officials, that's a problem right now because our officials are forgetting that it doesn't matter what constituency voted you in office. At the end of the day, once you're in office, you represent the totality of the constituency of the municipality, city, or state that you represent. And these elected officials, these mofos, won't even see their constituents. Say it for me. They won't even. I got Prince now going in my head, but there's nothing sexy about him. But they're not even willing to see their constituents. They have them physically removed.
Right.
When I worked for the lieutenant governor of New York State, I used to handle a lot of incoming phone calls, and I would take the notes of the constituencies and their complaints, and we would draft responses. But I can't say that anybody ever showed up to our office. But nowadays, you see people, 2, 3, 4, 5, or more go to the office, and it only escalates to the point of a group going when the individual was denied an audience because these elected officials feel like they don't owe their population, their constituency, anything. So it's not easy. It's not just, go make an appointment. It's not going to happen. They don't, very few of them make the time to do that. They don't have the guts. Remember during the last election or after the election, how many of them were canceling their public hall meetings because they were getting booed at or yelled at or being asked hard questions that they didn't want to face. This group, this house, what is it, the 115th or something?
116th house.
They are a house of cowards. Absolute cowards.
It's called term limits.
There you go. I like that. I like that conjunction word.
Conjunction, junction. What's your function?
We need term limits because some of these guys have spent too much time in their positions. You know, when you go in a position and stay there 40 years, you spend too much time there.
That's too much time. That's too much time. Too much time. Wow. Well, we are 5 minutes away from shutting it down. I am going to ask for final thoughts. I'm going to go to Mr.
Thank you.
Derek.
Thank you for allowing me on the show. That's all I'm going to say.
That's it?
We'll send you.
You write all these
Well,
lengthy
I'm saying
comments online, and that's all we
I
get
would say
right
I'd say hopefully I can be back on and prep a little bit more for the topic. You know, I'm kind of saying this ad lib and just based on my knowledge, especially after getting off the phone call for an executive board meeting. So my brain is a little fried.
I'm gonna make you a proposal, Derek, because
Cash involved?
hell no.
No, I was
See,
kidding.
I don't want to offend you. I don't want to offend you. See, they are used to me cussing, so I don't want to offend you. So
Well, I'm not gonna
You
say what I
cuss
did.
too?
Brother Kearney know me.
all right now, let's do this. No, every
Okay.
now and then, I think it would be even a good thing that you come and sit in with these two, because I'm not even supposed to be here. How's that?
No, I feel comfortable now. 2 guys and 2 women. Okay, let's go.
That works. There's a nice demographic for you. Don't leave me outnumbered with these two. What's wrong with you? You're gonna make the beast come out. I don't want to get beastly.
And the topic may be Me Too, and then she'd be like, "Oh, for real?" I said, "Yeah, I support Me Too," but then just, everybody don't support Man Too all the time.
But I do invite you back anytime. And what we'll do is maybe Reggie can make sure that you get the subject matter before we go on air each week.
Oh, yeah,
And then
Yeah,
if
usually
it's,
shoots it out. Yeah.
okay, so then that way, then if time permits in your schedule, then if you can be on, then by all means, be a part of the group.
Yeah. And look,
I definitely appreciate it.
Resistance is futile.
and there's another person I want to get on the show later on too, Sydney Green. Okay, I want to get her.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Sydney, we're gonna get you on here one night also. So be prepared, be ready. Your time is coming.
Oh, absolutely. All right, so Julian, you got a final thought? Final word?
Oh, it's just the same thing I say almost every other show. We need to educate ourselves. We need to do our research. We need to learn about the voting and track records of these individuals who are running. And we need to start it now so that it doesn't become insurmountable as more candidates come to the forefront. And we need to watch who our news sources are and get our bullshit meters working so that we can smell it a mile coming. Because this election, we say it every 4 years how important this election is. But I don't think it's ever been more important than it is this election, because we sure as hell can't afford another 4 years of this monster.
Mm-hmm. Reggie?
Hey, I just want everybody to do their research. I want the candidates to try to figure out how to pull the country back together, how to get everybody on the same page. We're going to need to be on the same page if we're going to beat Trump, okay? The lefters going to have to come together with the moderates, and everybody's going to have to concede a little bit of ground, and we're going to have to work together. And that's just the bottom line of it. It's all about working and being informed, But we can't let the party go off to one side and let that side be the controlling side. It's going to be a group effort, And I hope that Howard Schultz will decide to, just drop his, his bid.
Now, I just want to add one thought to that, because this touches on something that Derek said. We don't all have to agree on everything, and we don't necessarily have to agree on everything that is on a candidate's platform. But we should make sure that nothing on their platform is diametrically opposed to our morals and our values as Americans, and making sure that all Americans are treated equally, and that we can be the best country we could possibly be. But if they've got that one thing, if they're on target for everything, but they have that one thing that is diametrically opposed to something you strongly believe in, then, go with your conscience, but it needs to be something significant. I'm not talking about a right that Group A has that Group B doesn't feel they should have or something like that. I mean, like, I guess this wall nonsense, I am diametrically opposed to that. I am opposed to white supremacy. So if you've got a candidate that is pro everything else I support, but is a supremacist, I'm sorry, you're out. So we cannot be a single issue voter. We have to be informed on the platform so we can really make educated decisions.
Very good. Very good. So that leaves it in you guys' court. Ready to come back next week for another show? I'm excited.
You got some fresh blood now, huh?
Yeah. All right.
Now call your mama back.
Yeah.
I will as soon as I get off of here, because she knows when I'm going on air, but she insists on speaking to her baby.
You're so cute calling her mommy.
I call her mommy.
That was so cute.
Yeah, people ask, how old is your baby? And it's just like 58, 59. Anyway, so thank you, everybody. And again, I want to say thank you to Derek for coming on and sitting with us. And I'm really looking forward to you coming back and sitting in. And like Reggie said, we're going to get Sydney on, get her views, but she cusses like me. So we might have to put up a warning. You
have that effect on all of us, Tony. You
little
even
disclaimer.
Got me
Oh my God. But thank you everybody for tuning in tonight here on Real World News TV. You have been joined by and hosted by Mr. Reggie Kearney. I always call him my baby daddy because I'm loving that beard. The beautiful Miss Chera Ann Tappan, and our newest, Mr. Derek Terry. So thank you so much for joining in tonight. You can catch Real World News TV here every Tuesday night, beginning at 5:30 p.m. Pacific, 7:30 p.m. Central, and 8:30 on the East Coast. Make sure that you follow Real World News TV right here on Facebook, and make sure that you head on over to the website at hottopicstalkradio.com. There you can catch up on some past shows, find out more about the hosts here under the Hot Topics Talk Radio Network. And we surely do invite you to check out some of the shows, the past shows, by going to YouTube under the Hot Topics Talk Radio Network. Make sure that you come on back here tomorrow on Facebook under Hot Topics Talk Radio TV with me, Yvonne Baker, and Chris Smith. We've got a great show lined up for you tomorrow night. Tomorrow night, we are asking the question, do you talk or tell your mate or your partner everything? And you know how things get turned into sex on our shows.
A little to the left.
So always. Yeah, that part right there. Ow! So anyway. So I invite you to come on back here on Hot Topics Talk Radio TV with me, Yvonne Baker, and Chris Smith. Show starts tomorrow night at 8 o'clock p.m. Pacific, 10 o'clock Central, and 11 o'clock on the East Coast. So you can catch the show by going to Hot Topics Talk Radio right here on Facebook. Until next week, right here on Tuesday night, we will see you back here on Real World News TV. Thank you for joining in. Thank you for listening, watching, and commenting. We'll see you guys back here next week, Tuesday. You guys have a wonderful rest of your night. Bye-bye.
Yeah.
Real World News TV, you are clear. Great show, everybody. Thanks for joining in tonight. We appreciate you. Good night.